All right, let's jump right into this. Welcome back to today's Explainer, everyone. We've got a truly compelling psychological breakdown to unpack today, focusing on something I guarantee you've seen in almost every workplace, classroom, or friend group. We're talking about the raw, completely unappreciated power of unseen dedication. You know, we're constantly conditioned to think that the loudest person in the room is the one making the biggest moves, but what we're looking at today completely flips that idea on its head. It introduces us to a concept we're calling the silent architect of success. So let's walk through this together, because the behavioral insights we're about to cover are absolutely phenomenal.
Starting us off with Section 1, the dangerous quiet. Let's set the stage for the person we're talking about.
The quietest person in the room is often the most dangerous to underestimate. I really want that to sink in for a second. This is our starting line. When we look at this story, initially, everyone actually laughed at this quiet individual. I mean, think about being in a room full of noise, where everybody is desperately trying to establish dominance just by being the loudest. In that environment, the quiet person is almost always totally misunderstood. People assume that silence means weakness, or that they just don't know what's going on. But pay attention to that word dangerous. It is dangerous to underestimate them, because that quietness, it isn't just empty space. It's highly calculated.
First off, he rarely spoke. Notice the incredible power in that absolute restraint. In a world where literally everyone is fighting tooth and nail just to be heard, actively choosing not to speak is a massive behavioral statement. It means that when he actually does open his mouth, his words carry real weight. And more importantly, it means he isn't leaking all his energy into pointless everyday chatter.
Next, he never showed off. Look at the complete and total lack of ego here. When you get right down to it, showing off is basically just a desperate plea for external validation, right? It's someone shouting, "Hey, look at me, tell me I'm important." But by never showing off, this person proves that their sense of worth is 100% internal. He simply doesn't need the whole room clapping for him to validate his work.
And finally, he never argued. This wraps up this little sequence of traits, and honestly, it might be the most striking one of all. Because think about it, arguments usually just come from a deep need to prove we're right to somebody else. By totally refusing to engage in pointless arguing, he is fiercely protecting his mental bandwidth. Let the weight of that extreme restraint settle for a second. There's no talking out of turn, no posturing, zero fighting, just absolute, laser-focused composure.
Moving right along to Section 2, the silent grind. Let's take a look at the massive behavioral contrast between our quiet figure and everybody else.
So, on one side you have the crowd chasing attention. And man, this is loud, it's frantic, and ultimately it's just really desperate. It's spending all your energy on the illusion of doing things. But then, on the exact opposite side, you have our subject, working in silence. While everyone else was exhausting themselves shouting to be noticed, he just kept his head down. He completely traded that cheap, short-term hit of attention for the massive long-term investment of actual, tangible work. It is a crazy contrast in how people choose to spend their daily energy.
And this went on day after day, month after month. Remember, this isn't some viral overnight hack. This is the totally unglamorous, monotonous passage of time. And there's a really crucial psychological dynamic happening during this unseen grind. People start making assumptions. Because the crowd couldn't actually see the noise of his labor, they just assumed he had absolutely no ambition. They thought he lacked confidence. Honestly, they genuinely believed the guy had no future. They totally confused his silent, ironclad discipline for a lack of drive.
Which brings us to Section 3, the sudden arrival. This is where things get really interesting and crash right into reality. Then one day, the results spoke for him. Boom! This is the ultimate pivot point. After months and months of being completely underestimated, having his ambition questioned left and right, the silence finally breaks. But it isn't broken by his voice. It's broken by the undeniable physical proof of his hard work. See, when you work in silence, your results essentially become your megaphone. And trust me, they are infinitely louder than anything you could have ever tried to shout yourself.
And just look at how suddenly these results materialize. The promotion, the success, the respect. Literally everything arrives at the exact same time. And why? Because the foundation was built completely in the dark, so the reveal is sudden and completely overwhelming to everyone watching. He didn't just get a tiny drip of praise here and there to keep his ego afloat. He got the absolute totality of success delivered in one massive, undeniable wave.
And suddenly, we are hit with the ultimate irony. The exact same people who had completely ignored him, the folks who laughed at him and swore he had absolutely no future, well, now they are desperately begging to know his secret.
They're completely scrambling, looking for some magic shortcut that explains how he arrived so suddenly. But the joke's on them, because the secret was just the agonizingly quiet discipline that they were too busy chasing attention to ever notice.
All right, Section 4, Progress over Approval. Let's deconstruct the core psychology behind why this actually works.
Psychology actually points to a very specific dynamic here. On one hand, you have the people who constantly seek approval. And here's the trap. When your main goal is just getting approval, your progress literally hits a brick wall the second someone claps for you. You achieve significantly less because all your energy is tied up in managing what other people think. But over on the other side, the people who focus on progress achieve vastly more because the work itself is their metric. They aren't sitting around waiting for permission, and they sure aren't stopping their momentum just to take a bow. They are too busy building something incredibly real.
So, what does this all mean for us? Why does working in silence actually yield these massive results? I really want you to think about this for your own life and your own mindset. When you completely remove the audience, you totally remove the fear of judgment. You get rid of that exhausting pressure to constantly look busy. It's just you and the task in front of you. All that wasted energy, the arguing, the showing off, the desperate attention-seeking, all of it gets funneled directly into pure, unadulterated execution.
Which leads us to our final, absolute mic drop takeaway today. Work in silence. Let your results make the noise. Seriously, the next time you get that nagging urge to broadcast all your big plans, or to argue your worth to people who don't matter, or to chase the room's attention, just hold back. Take all that restless energy and channel it straight into the grind. Let the architecture of your own success speak completely for itself.
And that pretty much wraps up our explainer today on the psychology of the silent worker. But before we go, I want to leave you with one final question to ask yourself. In a world that is so incredibly obsessed with being seen and heard, what kind of amazing things could you build if you finally just chose to be quiet? Think about that for a bit. Be sure to follow for more psychology stories and life lessons, and I will absolutely catch you in the next explainer.